2022 Smart Growth Committee meeting to order with myself, Brian McGinnis, Councilwoman Lisa Dorsey, and Councilwoman Patrick McCoy. Are there any comments, suggestions, petitions by residents in attendance regarding items that are not on the agenda? Mr. Walsh.
Tom Walsh, Chair of the Westchester Historical Commission. I have given you each a copy of some items that were extracted from the 1999 souvenir booklet for Westchester's 200th anniversary. In 2024, we will be celebrating our 225th anniversary. The purpose of that package is to refresh you with what was going on then. It is a total community event. And if we are going to proceed, the borough is going to have to authorize that this event is going to take place with some sort of community-wide structure. I did not participate in that structure on a big basis back in that time period, so I can't explain the structure to you. I'm going to be working with a few members of that committee that were still available, and I will pass the information on to our borough manager. I have attached to the list, before that, point out to you artist painting on the cover, logo, you see the leaders, you see pages of events, you see a page in there of structure. All this needs to be done, and time is starting to run out. I have a request, that is the last page, that the Borough Council authorize the Borough Manager to present to Council in September or October 2022 the procedure to establish a Westchester 225 committee. Upon approval by Council, the Westchester 225 committee will plan the events that will celebrate the borough's 225th anniversary in 2024. And that is my report. You have a copy of what we are suggesting. I will give a copy to Kevin for that, and I will answer any questions that you might have at this point. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Item 3, discussion items, the July 2022 Building and Housing Monthly Report.
Thank you. We'll keep the report brief this month. There's not too much on it. We did issue the demolition permits for Davis Oil. Very exciting. I was hoping they were going to start this week, but they have not yet. I know they were anxious to get started. So hopefully end of this week or early next week, we see some movement over there with the removal of those unsafe structures. Excuse me. We did receive the land development application for the Wyeth property, which is located at 611 East Neal Street. It was on the Planning Commission's agenda last month, excuse me, for their initial presentation to the Planning Commission. We have completed a first round of reviews with all the consultants and other departments here at the borough, and we're going to continue to work through those reviews. Today, we did just get their resubmission on the preliminary plans. So we're going to continue to work through them and review them and work through with the Planning Commission to ensure that those plans are consistent with our ordinances. It should be to Borough Council in October for consideration. There's nothing too overwhelming in the numbers this month, so I'll just leave it up there if anybody has any questions regarding the numbers report.
I don't have any questions.
No questions.
All right, let's move item number 4. Action items, approve proposed changes to stormwater ordinance and set a public hearing date for September 21st, 2022 at 6:30.
Good evening, Will Williams, Sustainability Director. If you'll recall, last month we put this on your radar. I'll give a quick recap of that. Every decade or so, revisions of the model ordinance, countywide and statewide model ordinances get pushed down from DEP. That's to ensure that, relatively speaking, it's a fairly uniform stormwater ordinance across the state as much as possible, even though, individual decisions are in the power of each municipality. The last time they did that was 2013, so it's time to do that again. There are a lot of small changes to the ordinance, but not a ton of substance. We already have a very good, very solid stormwater ordinance. As over time, whenever council has been confronted with, choices to make, we've always gone sort of more aggressive, and that's to address our existing stormwater issues in the borough. Last month, we looked at 2 attachments. The first was a summary of changes, which was published by the Chester County Water Resource Authority. And we also provided about a 98% draft of the changes in the actual ordinance format, so you could see the changes in the context of the ordinance. Tonight, we have the final draft, as well as the second attachment is about 30 pages of documents that need to be included with the ordinance as appendices. So the DEP imposed deadline is September 30th, and we're not bringing this to you late. They finalized the guidance in mid-June. So this is really as quickly as we could get it before you and get it addressed. So the ask tonight is that that you all recommend adoption of the updated ordinance to Borough Council for next week, and then we'll go about scheduling a hearing, I think, prior to the work session next month. Now, last month, we also said that our engineer would be here to talk about some of the more important changes in the ordinance, and that is Nate Klein from Pannoni, and I'm going to let him speak for a few minutes.
Thanks, Will. Yeah, Nate Klein with Pannoni Borough Engineer, the office director for our Westchester office here. Like Will said, this Westchester Borough's ordinance is on the high side of regulations. We adopted a lot of the recommendations last time around. A lot of other municipalities passed. A lot of the optional stuff, they said, we don't want to do that. We don't want to get those things done. But Westchester said, yes, we want to do that because we have ongoing stormwater infrastructure, flooding, those types of needs here that are different than some of the suburban municipalities out there. So these edits are really, I would say 90% of it are cleanup, text, real minor modifications that really aren't worth getting into. There's a couple big picture issues where we are changing some of the requirements to conform to some of the latest DEP guidance. One of the buzzwords out there is MRC. It's called a managed release concept. It's come up on a couple projects here in the borough. They've had to ask for relief. It's an accepted practice by DEP. They're now recommending, hey, let's just update our ordinance to match this standard that's out there. Again, recommending that for all of the clients I'm working with. This ordinance is going to improve some of our green infrastructure requirements, give some more flexibility. It's going to address issues of discharges onto adjacent properties a little bit better. It's also going to talk about closing out NPDES permits for projects, going to give the borough some more ability to require that and get that, so we don't run into issues like Union Station, where that did not get resolved, unfortunately, but this will give us a little bit more teeth. Really, most of the optional things here, I think between Will, Kevin, myself, and your solicitor, we're looking to implement. So this is going to have most of those optional items. And again, I think it's going to be a very strong stormwater code, but again, it's not deterring development, as we can see, has some redevelopment provisions that we're also seeing be utilized on some of these sites like 501 Hannum or Rubenstein's, even 611 Nields, give some flexibility for those things. So, this is literally, Will loves when I print my stuff, but this is, the ordinance itself is it's a lot. So I don't expect, detailed questions or analysis, but I can tell you these are all things that we are recommending. And if you have questions between now and adoption, we can certainly answer them. If you want more specificity, examples, details, we can provide it. But these are recommendations for the borough to move forward with.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
None.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Yep, no worries. Thanks, guys.
Is that a 3-0 for the date on September 21st?
Yes. Item B, the approval of the final land development for plan for 501 Hannum Avenue.
Just waiting for Jeff to get that up on the screen here. Everybody may know this is the site of the former laundromat. at the intersection of West Washington and Hannum Avenue. The existing building has been torn down, so it is a vacant site currently. This plan has gone through both preliminary and final land development stages here. The preliminary has been approved. This is the final land development stage for this project. Did receive clean review letters from all the consultants and departments here at the borough. And the addition to that, they are still waiting on their HOP from PennDOT, but that's really just an administrative function. The Planning Commission has provided a favorable recommendation for this project with the associated waivers. And with that, if anybody has any questions regarding the project, the project engineer, Joe Rosella from DL Howell, is here to answer any of those questions that you may have.
I don't have any questions. Anyone have any questions?
No questions.
We can move forward with that one. Rio. Item C, approval of the July 2022 Smart Growth Minutes. Any objections?
No objections.
Right. Item D, approve the July 2022 HARB submissions recommendations. There is an update there. Item number 1 has been tabled. I looked at these designs. I didn't see anything out of the ordinary or any issues there. Any objections?
No objections.
Just to clarify as well, we're tabling number 1 here, the 155 West Gay Street, Star of
Correct.
India.
That's correct.
Thank you.
That would include items 1 through 4. It's actually 2, 3, and 4.
2, 3, and 4, correct.
Any further questions, comments from the public? Okay. E, consider the request for the dining platform at Greystone Oyster Bar, 7 North Church Street. I do not see the applicant here. We did discuss this. I did actually have the opportunity to walk by Greystone. I did notice that they still have 1.5 feet on the Kilwins, which has not been removed. We did send a formal warning to them. It does take up an extra parking space, and we also have an issue with the meters that are not aligned. So I'm going to go ahead and not approve item E. Any questions or comments?
No questions.
One question. I was my understanding from the last time this came up that the police department was going to look at this. Have they weighed in on this?
I might have misunderstood. I didn't think we were going to have the police department. No, I think I just lied to you. I think they did, and they did have concerns about the additional platform extension there. I don't have that information readily available, but yes, they did have a concern about that. Obviously, we have concerns about the parking spaces. We tried to talk to them numerous times. We did have a plan to move the existing platform north, so it aligned with the parking spaces a little better and their storefronts. They were instructed to move the platform currently to their own property. They failed to do so, and they haven't responded to anything related to this request thus far.
So this sketch is no different than what I didn't go back and compare.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in agreement with Brian on.
So what's the next course of action? Would that be sending them a violation notice?
So what we can do is if tonight will be a 3-0 recommendation to deny the request for the extension, we will send, once Borough Council formally approves that denial next week, we'll send them a letter notifying them that the request was denied and that they are required to have the current platform installed in accordance with their current approval. Or I would still be willing to work with them to relocate the platform to the location that we previously discussed without any additional approvals. But yes, to answer your question, we will send them a notice of violation once this is formally denied that they're not in compliance.
Great, thank you. Any other business? Yes.
Good evening, Bernie Flynn, Councilman for the 6th Ward. To further exacerbate the situation that we have with the owner of the Oyster Bar, Council approved an extension of Mercado's platform to extend all the way to Courthouse Alley, with the approval that they remove 2 or 3 tables at the curbside, because people that have strollers, and I've gotten 2 complaints from 2 moms, they cannot cross the alley onto the pavement because there's tables blocking the handicap ramp there. And I brought it to Mr. Gore's attention, and he reached out to them supposedly to ask them to move the tables because, and also the tables, when you walk in between the tables along the front of Mercado, I did not measure it, but the 2 ladies that were walking their babies with their strollers, not side by side, behind one another. So it was difficult. They kept bumping into chairs because they have too many tables and chairs close to the 54-inch, is it still 54-inch? 54-inch gap that's required. So I'm asking the Smart Growth Committee to have the Building and Housing Department notify the owners of Mercado of basically 2 violations that they were supposed to do when we gave them the extension for permission. And Mr. Gore's already covered the one on the Oyster Bar. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gore, your opinion?
I agree. I did stop out there, and actually, it was last week. I met with the owner of Mercado's on site there, and I pointed to him the tables that were to be removed. He had no issues with removing them. I reminded him of the agreement that we had when the extension was approved, that those tables were to be removed. They still haven't been done, so I agree with Mr. Flynn that we need to send them a formal notice of violation.
Make a motion that we move forward with that formal notice.
Agree.
Second?
We call that a 3-0. Any other business comments? Motion to adjourn at 6:17.